The 2026 NFL edge rushing class is one of the deepest positions in this year's draft. So in today's video, I will be giving you guys my early top 10 edge rushers for the 2026 NFL draft. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys are new and do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And we are going to begin at number 10 with Romello Height. The charts and the draft grades early in the process. I know early on PFF had him as like a first round lock, and they kind of dropped him down a little bit lately. And I think probably the biggest reason why is I think they were just a little bit too high on Romello, and now it's kind of just getting back to where he should be, which is about a day 2 option. There is a lot to like about Romello Height's game. For starters, you have to look at the productivity he had this year in 2025. 9 sacks on the season, a 21.8 pass rush win rate, 92.5 overall grade. And you can see all the grades here against high-level competition, including the game versus Oregon, where I thought he was pretty solid. BYU, both games, he was both really good. And obviously the very hot start to the season. But at the same time, there's also some flaws to his game. So really quickly to start off with some of the pros of Romello Height's game. By the way, is it Romello? Is it Romeo? Please let me know in the comment section below so I don't mess this one up in the future. He's got a lot going for him though. Very long arms. He plays with a physicality that you like to see. When he gets off the line of scrimmage, man, he is explosive. He is really quick off the line, and he just looks like he is trying to hurt you at all times. He has such a physical mentality and just a fierce personality in general that it's really fun to watch him. I also think that there's a number of tools he can go to, whether it's a dip, a rip. He's got solid bend around the corner. I think that is, one thing that is really the big thing you're going to like about Romello Height. If you're looking for a dude that can get after the quarterback, that is what Romello can do. The unfortunate issue with Romello is the simple fact that he is not a big dude. He's only 6'3". He's only 240 pounds. It doesn't look like he can really put on a whole lot of more mass. And he is already not great against the run. Now, I think he tries against the run. It's not like he just doesn't, go for the effort or anything like that. He's just simply not big enough. He doesn't have the anchor, the strength, the ability to handle double teams or anything close to like that. So if you're going to have him out there on first and second down in the NFL level, going up against NFL tackles that will push you around, put you in the dirt, I just unfortunately don't think Romello's going to be able to survive out there because he is such a lightweight player. In addition to that, he's also only a guy that has like one really good year of productivity. You go back to some past years, and by the way, this is an older prospect too, a 6-year guy, 2 years Auburn, 2 at USC, 1 at Georgia Tech, and 1 at Texas Tech. But you can see 9 sacks this year, 3 the last year and 4 the year prior. So we're not talking about a guy that has 4 or 5 years of proven productivity. He broke out this year. And I think it's also fair to mention that Texas Tech has a ton of other talented guys on that defensive line. So some of the cons here with Romello are just a little bit concerning. Again, if you think you can get a ton out of him as a pass rusher, I like him. Good arm length. He's got a variety of pass rush moves. He's a really great athlete, but there are some issues. In addition to the pass rush tools, I don't love his counter moves either. He's got to develop that. So Romello Height, really fun player to watch on film. I think he's a solid day 2 DPR. I don't think he's a day 1 option though. Next up at number 9, let's talk about Gabe Jacas. So Gabe Jacas is kind of like a frustrating player because I really want to like him more. There's just some things about him that make me just kind of go, ugh, I just can't quite get there with you. It's really close between Jacas, Romello Height. And by the way, now when it comes to Gabe Jacas, I think there's a lot to like about his game. Number 1, he's pretty well put together. 6'3", 270 pounds. He also has a lot of productivity under his belt. This year, 12 sacks. The year prior, 8 sacks, 22 hurries, 28 hurries last year. You can see some pretty solid grades, a 15% pass rush win rate. Not ideal. We'll get to that here in a second. In terms, or, give or take, maybe 260 some days 270, somewhere above 250. He's not really a big, strong guy, right? I think he's fine against the run. I think he'll get it in the right position, and then for whatever reason, he might make a move one way or the other way that puts him out of position. I just think there's right now a nice floor to this player, which is a solid role player that can play on third and second down. And even maybe first down if he can develop as a run defender. I just feel like he needs a year or 2 of development, and he might be able to get there. That's why he's at my number 9. Moving over to number 8, I have R. Mason Thomas. So R. Mason Thomas is a really unique prospect because there's a lot to like about him, but there's also a ton of red flags that do make me very worried about him as a prospect. For starters, though, when you look at the stats this year in 10 games played, by the way, he dealt with some injuries this year, so still a productive year though. 6 sacks on the season, 19 hurries, 3 quarterback hits, a 20.3 pass rush win rate, and a 90.4 pass rush grade. I think that kind of tells you the story about our Mason Thomas. He is a pass rusher. He is somebody that is going to get after you. He is somebody that is going to try to get after the quarterback. He's 6'2", 249, so not a big dude. He also has shorter arms. Again, we'll talk about some of the cons here in a second, but he's really athletic. I think he's really twitched up. He has really solid change of direction, good bend around the corner, a variety of pass rush moves. I think for his size, he holds up in the strength category. Now, that all said, his arm length is really short. He's a smaller guy in general. He doesn't have a ton of weight. I think he could improve in his hand usage and just kind of playing a bit more under control. He dealt with injuries this year, and he's just not going to be a good run defender. That's a lot of cons to a player. Another thing that is also kind of note here, if you look at this season and just kind of look at which teams had some of the best offensive tackle play, obviously, Tennessee had a good game, but, the Texas game didn't play that great. The Bama game didn't play that great. And the Michigan game didn't play that great. You can see some of his best games are against some of the worst offensive lines, maybe minus Tennessee. That might be the one game you could point to and say he went up against some decent tackles in that one. So, but even in that, there might be some context to these numbers. So there are some cons with R. Mason Thomas. I still think, though, again, you're drafting him to be a pass rusher. You're probably not going to use him on, run downs, maybe like an obvious 1st and 10 situation or something along those lines. But if you're just looking for somebody that can play as an outside linebacker, probably not a 4-3 edge, more of a pure 3-4 outside linebacker, 2-point stance, let him play, with his head on fire, let him work outside the tackle, give him a runway, see if he can make some moves. I think that's kind of the role you could see him in. You might hear some comparisons to Mike Green, who was kind of a similar prospect from a size perspective and from a profile standpoint. I think Mike Green was a much better prospect than R. Mason Thomas. Hence why I thought Mike Green probably was a middle to late 1st round pick last year. Moving over to number 7, I have Keldrick Falk. So a few things on Keldrick Falk, just some sort of house cleaning things here in terms of what I think of Keldrick Falk. I think Keldrick is actually better suited if he plays inside as like a big, more athletic interior defensive lineman, specifically in a 3-4, like a 3-4 defensive end. That's where I like him a bit more as. But in a 4-3, I also think he can work as an edge rusher. So that is why I do have him on this list. I just kind of wanted to make sure that I clarify where I think he's best used as. As an interior defensive lineman, I do think he's one of the better talents because of the upside of him as a player. But as a pure edge rusher, I have some general concerns. Now, with that said, I think Keldrick Falk will go a lot higher on my board as I get closer to the combine, and he's going to dominate the combine. He'll dominate the pro day. So I think he might climb up my board a little bit. I'm just a little bit hesitant on a number of things when it comes to Keldrick Falk. Keldrick is kind of the prototypical example of a guy with great size, great athleticism, a great physical build. He's 285, but he carries it so well. Such great arm length, size, the whole everything. But we've had this conversation a lot about guys that have the size, the stature, the physical look, the athleticism, but they're just a little bit raw as a player. And that's kind of what I'm getting from Keldrick Falk here. Again, if he's an interior player, I like him a ton more because, again, he has such great size and 6'6", 285. He could probably put on maybe 10, 15 more pounds to get up to around that 300 range and just be a full-time interior defensive piece and kind of serve as sort of that Tershawn Horton kind of role as sort of a designated pass rusher, maybe even a Chris Jones to a certain extent. Like, I think Keldrick has that upside, but as a pure edge defender, I worry about him a little bit more. You can see the numbers here. 11.6% pass rush win rate, only 2 sacks on the season. Last year was a lot more productive. Maybe you can make the argument, though, that some of those were cleanup sacks and that sometimes the numbers can be a bit skewed. But I do think that there's a lot to like about him. Great size, great length. I think he's a solid enough run defender. I think he has violent hands. He's physical. He has that physical mentality. Some of the cons, though, he doesn't really have much of a pass rush plan. He doesn't really use his hands that great. I think the timing in which he gets off the line of scrimmage can also be hit or miss. Some pretty big red flags. He isn't a proven productive sack guy. I just feel like for me, I have him this low because I'm usually not somebody that likes to buy into size, height, weight, 40 times, things like that. I want to see you go out there and perform. I want you to put it on the field and prove to me out there that you can ball out. It's why I wasn't high on Shamar Stewart last year. And no, I'm not saying Keldrick is Shamar Stewart 2.0, just kind of giving you an idea. Same with like a Michael Williams. It's like, yeah, Michael, Shamar, great size, decent enough. Well, Shamar, freaky athlete. Michael, a solid enough athlete. But they just didn't do much in college in terms of like that pass rush nuance and things like that. We'll see what Michael pans out to be, but you can make the argument that those were 2 of the worst first-round picks last year. And we've just seen a number of these guys drafted in years past where they're big, they're strong, they have everything going for them, but they aren't proven players in the college level. What makes me think they can translate that to the NFL level? Now, I feel like I'm being harsh on Keldrick. Again, if you move him inside as a 3-4 end, or maybe even a 4-3 interior piece, I don't necessarily hate it. I don't think he'd survive in a 4-3 interior, but as a bigger edge rusher in a 4-3, I can see it kind of working out. Again, I prefer him as a 3-4 end. I think that he would excel in that role. All right, next up at number 6, let's talk about Akeem Mesidor. So a lot to like about Akeem Mesidor. We're talking about a guy that had a super productive season this year, playing opposite of, somebody we'll talk about here in a little bit. Obviously being the runner-ups for the national championship. By the way, what a game last night. That was such a fun game. Such a great moment for Indiana. Shout out to them, man. That was an awesome performance. But Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, they've been two of some of the best pass rushers in football. You can see the stats here. 13 sacks on the season, was able to put together a fully healthy season. 705 snaps played outside the tackle, 800 plus in total. You can see the grades here, a lot more green than blue than there is yellows, obviously. 50 hurries, a 20% pass rush win rate, good against the run, excellent pass rush. I mean, there's just so much to like about this guy. By the way, Miami's defensive line coach is Jason Taylor. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I'm correct with that one. Obviously, great person to learn. You can kind of see that there's been a lot of nuanced training and things like that. He's explosive off the line of scrimmage, great bend, knows how to use his hands. He's an experienced player that should hypothetically be able to step in instantly and be a contributor because, well, one of his biggest cons, he's old. He's almost, 25 years old, meaning that by the time he's done with his rookie deal, after the 4 years you get him for, he's going to be damn near 30, which we know that the lifespan of edge rushers for 90% of guys, unless you're, I don't know, Von Miller, who's still rocking at almost 40 years old, usually at around 33, 34, 35, that's when you can see your game start to dip. So the question is just going to be what team is going to take him. I feel like for half of teams out there that are trying to build towards the future, Akeem is probably not on their board. Take, for example, like the New Orleans Saints, for example. Yeah, you're trying to, win instantly, but you're also trying to build towards the future. You're trying to build around Tyler Shock, who, I guess Shock's an older prospect, so maybe that's not the best example, but let's just say, for example, the Miami Dolphins, who are kind of resetting their roster, building this new team, hired a new head coach. We'll see how that pans out for them. They shouldn't get a 25-year-old player because by the time they're good, Akeem's going to be 28, 29 and having like 3-4 years left in his prime. So, but again, if you're a team like, let's say the Chicago Bears, who just made it to the divisional round, we're one game away from the NFC Championship game, you might say we might be an Akeem Mesidor away. So taking him in the back of round 1 could check out. And so some of his cons, he's an older prospect. He over pursuits sometimes. He's a bit of a late riser. I would like to see a bit more diversity in his pass rush. He relies on, the well-known tools he does have. He'll have to grow his tree a little bit more. 6'3", 270, 280-ish pounds. He holds that weight very well. He gets off the line well. He's a great prospect. And I think wherever he's going to go, he should be an early contributor. All right, next up at number 5, I have Cassius Howell. So even though Cassius is in my top 5, I don't love Cassius Howell. And there's a couple reasons why. Number 1, he's 6'2", 248. He kind of reminds me a little bit of R. Mason Thomas. I just think he's a bit better than R. Mason Thomas, so that's why he's in front of R. Mason Thomas. But he's another one of these dudes that he'll try against the run. He's not good against the run, and he won't be good against the run at the NFL level. He is not big enough. The arm length is an issue. He gets pushed a lot out there. I think he is a good athlete. I wouldn't call him a freaky athlete that he can overcome his run deficiencies with that athleticism. He's going to get pushed around in the NFL level. So you're looking at a guy that's basically a pure DPR, but man, he is really good at getting after the quarterback. Elite first step, really good bend around the corner, knows how to use his hands. I think he could clean up some technique issues, but he just makes it work, man. So much pass rush diversity, so many different moves he can go to. He's just smaller and has these shorter arms, and he's going to get washed into the run game. He might, make a play here and there. I'm not saying he's inept at it, but he's just not big enough and doesn't have the arm length enough. That is the concern for me. Cassius is such an interesting prospect to me because I could see him being kind of a middle of the first round guy, or I could see him falling to like middle of day 2. Like anywhere in that range would not surprise me because he has so many massive red flags to his name. But I personally believe it wouldn't be right for me just to completely knock him out. 12 sacks this year, a 20% pass rush win rate, 4 last year, still got after the quarterback quite a bit. 10 the year prior. You can see all the grades here. The game versus Texas, not his best game. Even against Miami, I thought he could have played better, but still, I just feel like there's something here with this guy where it's like, I could see him being a dude that gets you 8 sacks a season. And while he may never be great against the run, I think he can be decent enough as a player. So he's at my 5. He might fall a little bit after the combine because I don't think he's going to test out the waters. All right, next up at number 4, let's talk about Joshua Josephs, the Tennessee edge rusher. So every year, there's always that one guy that you plant your flag on and you say, I think this guy's going to be a superstar. And sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. I'll take my guy, for example. I thought Braden Swinson last year was really good, and I still think he can be good if he gets an opportunity. We'll see if that one pans out. But I've had multiple other guys where it's like, I love this guy, and he ended up being terrible. And there's other guys too where I was like, I love him, he's underrated, and he ended up being a steal, right? So Joshua Joseph is somebody that I would plant my flag on. I just think he has a ton of upside to get there if he's given the opportunity, because this is a draft class where you're looking at a couple dudes here, R. Mason Thomas, Cassius Howell, Romello Height, for example, that have size limitations and things like that, and they're kind of maxed out with their current body type. Joshua Josephs is kind of in that same mold, 6'3", 245-ish, but he does have long enough arms. And I think he has more of an ability to put on some extra size and some extra muscle to where he might be able to get up to around that 6'3", 250 range, to where he might be suited in a 4-3 edge. And he can also work in a 3-4 outside linebacker role. In terms of what I love about the guy, I think he's got great arm length. I think he gets off the ball very well. I think he's strong at the point of attack. He's got good bend around the corner. There is some ankle stiffness issues, but I still feel like he gets around that corner really well. Really solid athlete. He's still developing a variety of pass rush moves, but I still feel like there's a lot more there. Like he's got a couple moves down. He might need to add a couple counters, a couple other things, see if he can develop like good spin, stuff like that. But I think he's got some in the tool shed right now, just has to continue to expand it. Cons, I think he needs to put on a bit more mass. We talked about that a bit earlier. I don't think he is like this super jacked up guy. If he can put on 10 pounds of muscle, he might be a little bit better at, getting extension on guys trying to kick you out. Being able to anticipate down blocks is a bit of a con, and I think ankle stiffness is a major red flag. But I love the way this guy performed. He just isn't being given a ton of opportunities. Tennessee is one of these teams, man. We saw it last year with Omar Norman Lott, where they just rotate and rotate and rotate and rotate. If I was an edge rusher, a 5-star or 4-star, I would not commit to Tennessee, because I would only see, you can see it here, less than 400 snaps. This guy has not played a singular season with over 400 snaps, and that is wild to me. We talked about Akeem Mesidor with over 800 snaps this year. Joshua Josephs has played like far less than half of Akeem Mesidor. But that's kind of what makes me kind of like this guy. He's a multiple year guy for Tennessee, has made a ton of plays out there on the field, and just hasn't quite yet been given all those opportunities. It's kind of like the Omar Norman Lott of last year, where it's like, why didn't they give him more opportunities? Oh, it's just Tennessee. That's just what they do. But I know damn sure he's going to be a good player. And that's kind of what I feel like here with Joshua Josephs, where, and also the nice thing about him, you probably don't have to draft him round 1. He might be a late round 1, somewhere on day 2 prospect. But of all of these guys that are DPR oriented, some of them have massive red flags, and they're not going to be good against the run. I think Josephs has the ability to be good against the run while also still giving you that same level of DPR. Maybe not as elite as a Cassius Howell, but still very good. Like, for example, Cassius Howell might be a guy that averages 8 to 10 sacks a season, but he's going to be horrible against the run. Hypothetically, I mean, I could be wrong here, but I think Joshua Josephs could be somebody that gets you like 7 to 9 sacks a season and is quality against the run. So, my personal cup of tea is a bit more of a well-rounded guy. I could be completely wrong. My flag is planted on Joshua Josephs. For all I know, it could be one of the worst decisions of my life. I'm kidding. It won't be. Moving over to number 3, I have TJ Parker. I think some people are overthinking some of these Clemson guys a little bit. Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Avion Terrell. Look, they did not have the year that they were hoping to have last year. None of those guys did. But I don't think it's a coincidence that all of those guys took a step back, including Cade Klubnik. At some point, we just kind of have to look at that program and say, that's the reason why the year wasn't as great as what they were hoping it to be, less on the players. Now, with that said, you watch the tape of TJ, I still thought there was a lot of really good play out there. But there is some questions with TJ. Let's start off with the positives. TJ Parker, he's really well put together. 6'3", 260 pounds, strong hands, good length, good size, very strong player, moves people around in the run game. He's also another one of these guys where he's aware of what the play is. He doesn't get fooled too much by play actions, RPOs, things of that nature. He has proven productivity as a pass rusher, so that gives me hope that this year was just kind of an off year. Again, you look at the numbers this year, 6 sacks. It's important to say he kind of dominated South Carolina, and that's where a lot of his productivity came from. But still, 6 sacks is 6 sacks. Last year, though, is really what had him hyped up to potentially be a top 5 pick. I mean, that was the conversation with TJ because he had a massive year with 12 sacks. And then obviously half of that this year. There are some red flags to his game. I think the biggest thing I do worry about with TJ is he maxed out, right? Is he somebody that had such a good year in that second year that it's now like that is who he was at his best? There's no more of that next level. That was the level. And now we're just kind of seeing him flatten out, which is a concerning thing because if I'm taking TJ Parker in round 1, I want to see a guy that gets better year in and year out. And by the time he's a 3-year vet in the NFL, he's now entering into his prime. I worry that TJ is one of these players where he maxes out a bit early, and this is kind of the beginning of his prime, right? Kind of an earlier prime sort of person. Maybe I'm wrong with that on TJ, and I hope I am wrong, but I think he's a really good prospect that we're just kind of overthinking. Now, one thing you got to know, I've actually heard this quote out there. I'm sorry that I don't know who said it off the top of my head. If I can find it in post, I'll put it on the screen. But I saw a post out there that said TJ Parker is more Jared Verse than, I can't remember the other comparison, but he's more Jared Verse than, a pure pass rusher. I can't remember the name. And I don't disagree with that. I think he's much more of one of these guys that is going to be stout against the run, play with that strength and physicality, push the pocket, more so than get you the 15 sacks a season that you'd maybe want to see from a Jared Verse. Jared is such an impactful player, despite the fact that he's not getting you 15 sacks a season. He might only have, 7 or 8 sacks a year, but he's putting so much pressure on quarterbacks because he's so damn strong. He's collapsing the pocket, forcing you to bail, and that's giving opportunities to guys like Fisk and, all those linebackers and edge rushers that team has. That's kind of what I think TJ is going to be at the NFL level. I don't think he's going to be your number 1 go-getter pass rusher, but if you have a go-getter DPR guy, let's say like the Green Bay Packers, who have that Micah Parsons element, if you're looking for somebody that can pair perfectly next to him, TJ Parker. Just saying, Packers don't have a first-round pick. Make it happen. Make it happen. All right, next up at number 2, we have David Bailey, the Texas Tech transfer. For starters, let's go back to the picture here. This guy has no drip at all, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. No sleeves, no gloves, no tape, no nothing. This guy's all about ball. But I mean, can we put on like an armband or something? It's weird watching tape of a guy that's, it feels like he's naked. Let's just be honest. It feels like he's naked. I'm sorry. It's just kind of weird. That all said, Bailey is a dude, right? It took me a little bit to get on the David Bailey train. I liked David Bailey early in the season, but he was more around like the 18th to 20th best player in my big board. And as time has gone on, as I've seen now all 14 games of his time with the Texas Tech Red Raiders, he's now all the way up into my top 10. I think this guy's awesome. I think there's so much to like about him, with a couple cons though. We got to keep that in mind. When you look at the year he had, and by the way, this guy's not a one-year wonder. He was dominant the year with Stanford too, but this year has taken it up even to another level. 15 sacks in the season, 43 hurries, 23 hits, a 21.6 pass rush win rate. You can see he's not bad against the run, which we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, look at these grades, man. It's pretty good. I thought he was really good versus Utah, by the way. I 62.1. I don't know. I think I thought he was pretty good in that one. But he's got the athleticism to get off the line of scrimmage, the bend around the corner, the proven productivity, functional strength, a variety of pass rush moves. He is just that kind of guy. Now he has some concerns. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's 6'3", 250-ish, but he can get washed in the run game sometimes. I think he's a feisty run defender and tries his hardest in there, which makes him, I think, a functional run defender, but he's far away from an elite run defender. He's definitely probably a little bit below league average in run defense. So if you could, you would like to take him off the field. But if they run the ball when David Bailey's out there on the field, you're not like, oh no, this is a life ender. He can hold his own. But he will get washed sometimes. Sometimes he'll over pursue in both pass rush sets and on run defense sets. I think he's a strong player, but primarily against the run, guys are just a lot stronger and more physical at that aspect of their game. There's also character concerns too, which, we'll kind of see what that process looks like throughout the offseason, like what, issues he might have dealt with in the past. But I do know there was a situation with the cameraman, and I think there was something else at Stanford where I want to say he stepped on a dude. Things you don't want to hear. It's football. You got mean guys trying to play a mean game, but there has to be a level of sportsmanship and things like that. We'll see if that ends up being, a big deal in the offseason. I hope not, because he is a sensational athlete, sensational pass rusher. Another one of these DPR guys, but I think of these other DPR, number one, he's just the best pass rusher of the entire class, arguably. And he's just, in my opinion, a better run defender than the R. Mason Thomases of the world, the Cassius Howells of the world, even the Romello Heights of the world. So David Bailey, awesome player, probably going to be a top 12, 15 pick, especially if the off the field stuff is not a big issue. Now, really quickly, before we do actually end up getting into my number one player, I did want to hand out a few honorable mentions. These are guys that I think are really, really good players. I just couldn't quite put them in my top 10, yet I do obviously have some time to change my opinions. Zion Young, the Missouri edge rusher, great size, strength, sets a firm edge. I love him as a run defender. Would like to see him be a little bit better against the pass. Derek Moore, kind of the opposite. Good size, good frame, gets off the line of scrimmage with some explosiveness. I think he needs to work on his hands. I think he needs to work as a run defender. And I also think he's got some ankle stiffness that makes me a bit cautious with him. Other names, Mikal Kamara had a great game for Indiana. He's just a little bit on the shorter side, but we saw what he can do in this national championship. Like him a lot. Tyreek Sapp, big dude. Jayshawn Barham, a pure upside swing as a DPR potential option. He's a day 3 option that I think you're trying to develop into being maybe better than what his ranking might suggest. Deny Dennis Sutton, love him, and I think he has a ton of upside. He needs to put it all together, though. Anthony Lucas, really strong. Not sure much of a pass rusher, though. Oh, and LT Overton, I consider him a bit more of an interior defensive lineman, even though I love LT Overton. I think he's a really good player. But at my number 1, I have none other than Rueben Bain Jr. So Bain had an interesting process throughout the season, right? He comes out the gate through the first, week 9 of the season. This was the number 1 prospect in the draft. Then he had a couple quiet weeks where he was still playing really good, but just wasn't kind of putting it all together. And people started pushing him down just a little bit, down to like the 7th or 8th or 10th best player. And then he's just been unbelievable, almost unblockable in the postseason. That game versus Indiana did not stand a chance against this guy. When you look at the stats here, in 16 games, by the way, Rueben Bain, what a stud. I wish he would have won the Natty. I was rooting for Indiana, but Bain is one of these guys you root for because he's been a true Miami Hurricane. But dealt with injuries in past seasons, has came back to form this year, 16 games played, 12 sacks, 68 hurries. You can see over 800 snaps played, basically a 23% pass rush win rate. Very good against the run. He's got some reps out there that are very exciting. Great against the pass. You can see the numbers here. And this is Ohio State, Ole Miss, even Texas A&M and Indiana. These guys have multiple first-round picks. And even like Notre Dame, Florida, FSU, NC State's got some, Pitt's got some dudes. Like Rueben Bain has just been that freaking good. He is everything you want in a player. Now, there are some cons, but in terms of the pros, great build, 6'3", 270 pounds, got so much pass rush variety, so much great technique, really good strength, can hold the edge. I mean, people are scared of this guy. He is an absolute demon out there. Just, I don't know, watch Rueben Bain national championship highlights. He'll have 15 plays up there that makes you just go, yeah, draft him 101. Cons, arm length. People are going to call him T-Rex arms. I don't care. I could literally care less when it comes to Rueben Bain. For other guys that have, bigger issues, like, for example, Cassius Howell also has shorter arms, but I'm more worried about Cassius Howell because he's 248, 6'2", and is bad against the run. Whereas you look at Rueben Bain, who's 6'3", 270, so much size, length, and strength to him that even though his arms are a tad bit shorter, I'm not that worried about it. Now, there will be times where you go up against these super long-limbed guys, like maybe an Armand Membu, for example, who's a freaking stud, who maybe has a bit more length that could give Bain some issues. But I think if Bain puts his head in your chest, you're falling to your ass. This guy is a stud. He could work on some counter rush moves. I think that's gotten a lot better as he's gotten more mature and put more tape out there on the field. And his tackling technique is something he can improve on. This guy's a stud. For context, he is my 5th ranked player in this class. And frankly, depending on what happens with Jordan Tyson's medical, he's probably going to move up to number 3 or 4. So yeah, guy's a freaking stud. Also, Arvell Reese, you can include him in your edge rushing rankings, but I just think he's such a weapon as an off-ball linebacker that you can just kind of throw him in either rankings. He would not be my number one edge rusher, just an FYI. He's a great player, though, just wouldn't be my number one. But you guys, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your top 10. If you have a top 10 or a top 5 or a top 3, please tell me in the comment section below. What do you agree with in this video? Please tell me what you disagree with. Let's have a good conversation down below. If you're new here, hit the like and subscribe button. We are so close to 20,000 subscribers, so please hit that subscribe button. And of course, per usual, I love you guys. Have a good day. Peace out.